This is my own paper as per the agenda. When she is able to hear us, we'll continue with her paper in the next. With the permission of chair, I will read my own paper. Second. My paper topic is Tonglen, a meditation technique or a in Tibetan Buddhism, which is we call it Tonglen, meditation in Tibetan Buddhism, a medium for practicing global well-being. So I will be just reading the brief paper of mine. One of the most geographically isolated culture in the world may contain the secret to the happiness that the rest of us have been looking for. Perhaps in part because of the country's remote location, the Tibetans or the Himalayans have become the guardian of deep, well-preserved wisdom tradition that modern science is only now catching up to. And early Indic culture developed public system of training in mindfulness, including the Hatha yoga tradition and Tibetan Buddhist mind training, to ensure that skills of contemplation and positive were taught to everyone. We need two main things to become happy. According to the Buddhist traditions, mindful awareness and loving compassion. The theory goes that the combination of attention and loving kindness, both of which can be built through contemplative practice like meditation. Like the great Sogil Rinpoche, the famous, in his the famous book, the Tibetan Book of Living Dying, a guide to meditations and Tibetan Buddhist philosophy, he quote as, think of your ordinary emotion, thought-ridden self as a block or an ice or a slab of butter left out in the sun. If you are feeling hot and cold, let this aggression melt away in the sunlight of your meditation. Unquote. So similarly, in the Good Medicines by Pema Chodden shares that the gift of Tonglen, a simple and elegant meditation system for ordinary people like ourselves. Through Tonglen, we can use the difficulties in life, those that cause the most suffering, as way to befriend ourselves, accept the past we have, reject and widen our circle of compassion. This traditional breathing meditation cut through obstacles on the spot. So, unquote, by the Pema Chodden. So, just giving brief understanding of Tonglen and the history of Tonglen. Tonglen is a form of Buddhist meditation practice that began over 1,000 years ago. While the practice of Tonglen began in India, it's further developed and gained popularity as part of Buddhist lojong, or the mind training, what we can call lojong is mind training practice, which were compiled approximately 900 years ago in Tibet. Atisha, who was born in what is now Bengal and lived from 980 to around 11th century AD, has been attributed with the collecting the lojong teachings and bring them to Tibet. These teachings are thought to have come from various key texts in Buddhist traditions, including the great Nagarjuna's Precious Garland and Shantideva's Guide to Bodhisattva Way of Life. As part of the lojong teaching, Tonglen is often presented via the 7-point mind training practice of Tibetan Buddhism. Thus, practice is designed to create a shift in one's mental state towards clarity and focus as a practice challenge difficulty states such as anxiety, desire, and frustration. Of the 7 points, Tonglen is part of the second point, which focuses on the development of understanding and view of the world that unites wisdom and compassion. Tonglen practice has been called the sending and receiving, sending and taking, giving and taking, and exchange self and for others. It has been popularized for Western audience by Buddhist teachers such as Pema Chodden, Sogyal Rinpoche, Chogyam Trungpa. While as noted above, Tonglen has a traditional been taught as part of the larger context of lojong teaching. Contemporary teachers have presented it as a stand-alone practice to be utilized in conjunction with sitting meditation. So Tonglen is a useful meditation practice for a variety of reasons. For one, it has been used to challenge habitual tendencies of avoiding, suppressing, fighting pain, and to shorten the emotion distance between self and others. It assists in development of emotion, insight, and understanding, which manifests through compassion, such as compassion directed towards difficult situations, those in situations. uh, It has been proposed as strategy to help nurses deal with chronic stress and burnout, as it helps to cultivate resilience as well as feeling of interconnectedness. And it has been proposed as tool for developing altruism. Uh, Tonglen can help individuals to cultivate greater personal insight as well as alter how they process their experience. Tonglen can be useful in helping to reduce egoistically tendencies via the development of feelings of interconnectedness. And then Pema Chodron and then the Mike Knight argues that the Tonglen practice is linked with elevated levels of compassion and can increase feeling of social connectedness and satisfactions with life. In addition, by developing compassion, uh, the McKnight notes that one becomes more adept at dealing with the mental and physical pain, depression, and social isolation. As Tonglen practice is steeped in non-judgmental acceptance, it can help individuals take on compassion rather than critical sentence when reflecting on their own challenge and fault by using Tonglen to breathe in and other shortcomings and difficulties. For those who practice Tonglen, learn to direct compassion towards human weakness and suffering. So just skipping many of the things, just wanted to know exactly how the Tonglen practice and what it can benefit and how one can benefit by practicing this meditation technique, which is being very much popular in Tibetan and which can be helpful for a global well-being. So going further, just one few more minutes I will just take up. In Tonglen practice, we sit comfortably on a cushion while clearing, visualizing our mother, cultivate loving kindness and compassion for her. It seems crucial and profound beneficial that he choose to begin with our own mother. If we do not have a loving relation with our own parents, something is going to be at very core of our spiritual practice, creating disharmony through our lives. I say this not natively, but knowing that some parents abuse their children physically or psychologically. Those of us with ill feeling towards a mother or a father may be tempted to say, "This is hard for me because I had a many of them in the childhood. Sometimes they always feel like parents have been little bit harsh on that in the childhood." So there is, of course, no law about this, but as long as our feeling remains unsolved towards our own parents, we lack a firm foundation for other relationships. Regardless of how our parents have treated us, it's crucial for a balanced and harmonious life that we come to terms with any resentment we feel. So bring insight to bear on the relation that loving kindness and compassion can arise from our heart. It encourages us to reflect that our mother has given us this precious, fully endowed human life, which means its essence that we have time for spiritual practice, regardless of how she might have treated us afterwards. It is because she gave us birth. We have a wonderful potential for spiritual growth in this and future lives. Think too that while our mother has cared for us so long in this and precious previous lifetime, sometimes even sacrificing her life for her children, she has meanwhile suffered grief, anxiety, fear, physical pain, not only because of her children, but throughout the course of her life. She has experienced the suffering of mental affliction, aging, sickness, death. As we ponder this, a feeling of compassion for our mother arises without much effort. Compassion in this case is simply the wish, may you be free of the suffering. Take the example of mother who is drunk, and we can reflect upon the unhappiness, the lack of satisfaction and meaning in life that give rise to habit of drinking, made her dependent on alcohol to get through each day. If a mother is an alcoholic, it naturally follows the sentiments. Sometimes, she is not a very consciously mother, and 30 or 40 years later, the child may still suffer resentment. But as we feel compassion for her, we can empathize with the sorrow and anxiety that give rise to afflictions of alcohol dependency, and we can wish from our heart sincerely without hypocrisy, may you be free both from the dependency and from the unsatisfied need that gave rise to it. May you be free of that suffering as well as the inner source. Imagine now the suffering that your mother experience, your own mother experience. For this potent practice to be done correctly, it must become a very personal meditation on your own mother, bringing to the mind suffering you have been seen in her experience, physical or mental, related to her internal condition or external circumstances. Go right to the source of suffering, the basic mental affliction themselves, attachment, hostility, ignorance. Imagine her own experience of suffering. Now practice taking this suffering. Imagine taking upon yourself and your own mother suffering together with his the instincts for their arising. Imagine that you are feeling this effort of and remove it from her contempt. Slice it off with a knife. Imagine it a dense black smoke and draw this black smoke from her and bring it into your heart. Visualize a blackness there in your own heart, like a black egg or a spear, and symbolize your own self-centeredness. Draw this the black smoke of suffering in your source and dissolve it into the black at your own heart. The point here is not to imagine your experience, your mother, anger, pain, or confusion. Instead, imagine the suffering comes directly into your heart, specifically to the self-centeredness of our heart and totally annihilating it, leaving not a single trace. As you draw the black smoke, you see your mother in your mind and I arise from suffering and mental affliction that arise in source. For example, she suffers from arthritis. Imagine her hands or her joints or moving or freeing or delighting experience of that full and proper use of limbs, her back and her neck. Imagine her regaining vibrant health. If stripes of or anger plague her, imagine the anger quelled.
Please conclude.
Okay, sir. In this way, what I'm just saying is that the taking the suffering of the other beings and giving the goodwill or whatever the goodness or what good quality oneself has, the sharing the compassion, the goodness, the whatever you have punya within yourself or the good qualities within oneself to the others or the well-being of the others, one who is suffering, and taking all the suffering in self and yourself. That is the technique of the well-being, what I will be saying in this whole paper itself. So lastly, just by saying of the Shantideva, I will just conclude this. I quote the Shantideva saying that if I don't complete exchange my happiness for others' sorrow, Buddhahood will not be realized. There is no happiness in samsara.